Parsha class tonight, and we are on Parsha's Lech Lecha. Those who are here are in for a treat. Closing my phone. Parsha's Lech Lecha is a very special Parsha, one of the very beautiful Parsha. Parsha's Lech Lecha is really the beginning of this old story called to be a Jew. Abraham is being told by God to do something and he does it. The first mitzvah Abraham gets is the beginning of this parsha on page 54. Vayomer Hashem el Avram, Hashem tells Avram, Lech Lecha mi'artzecha u'mimoyladetecha u'mibeis avicha el ha'oret asher areka, go for yourself from your land, from your relatives, and from your father's house to the land that I will show you. God doesn't even tell him where he should go. You start traveling, and at some point, I will tell you and show you that this is the land that I want you to stay. But he didn't know exactly where this land is going to be. He gives them blessings. Avram, says the verse, Pasuk Dalet, verse 4, was 75 years old. Betzeisoi mi Choron. Where he left Choron, the home of his parents and his family and his birthplace. And this is obviously considered a great test and challenge for Avram not to know where he's going, and yet, with faith and emunah, believe, trusting God, picks up his family and travels. He took with him Sarai, his wife, and his nephew Lot. And there was a very large group of people who escort them. Verse 5 says, they are being referred to as et hanefesh asher asu bechoron, the souls they made in Choron. Avram and Sarah didn't have any kids. As we're going to study in this week's Parsha, till the age of almost 100 years old, they had no children. They were married for many years and no kids. But yet they had a lot of souls that they made. They had a big following of people who shared the same message which Avram taught them, and this is monotheism. A belief in a God, in a superpower. And this is all the people who are traveling with him, and they say, Avram, wherever you go, we go. Where are we going? I don't know. We're going. The Torah doesn't give us any record who Avram was. What was his accomplishments? Why did he merit to get a commandment that nobody else in his generation and before his generation got, to become the founder of the Jewish nation? In the Torah, we don't find the information. The Medrash, Torah Shebal Peh, the oral tradition teaches about a wandering boy from the age of 3, kept on looking and searching and seeking, where is the organizer of this beautiful world? Does not make any sense. You see such a beautiful book and assume that by mistake somebody pushed on a bottle of ink and it kept on, spilling into letters and into chapters and into a book. This theory did not work. It has to be that someone actually wrote it down and printed it. And if you see this world, you have to look at it as a book and say, there has to be someone. And he tried, maybe the sun, maybe the moon, but each one disappointed them in a different way when they saw that they can't have their own control until he realized that there is a God. And once they realized there is a God, he made sure to teach that lesson to everybody else. And Avram is now accepted by God. By what? How does God show Avram his acceptance? By telling him what to do, where to go, and where he should travel in order to fulfill that vision and mission that God had in mind when he created the world, a people of Israel, a land, a country, and Avram is going to be known from that point on as the first Jew. This is Avram. And this is this week's Parsha. This is the story of this week's Parsha. In a couple of years after he began his journey, in the age of 75, Avram is going to be given yet another commandment, and this is to go through circumcision, called the Brit Milah, also in this week's Parsha. And this brings Avram yet to the next stage of establishing a covenant in the flesh with God, known as the covenant of circumcision, of Brit Milah. And since then, God tells Avram, I want all my descendants, all your children, to continue with the same tradition, and this is known as the tradition of Brit Milah, which is being performed throughout all the generations and throughout all places and all times for every single Jew on the 8th day of birth, as God has told Avram. In between, there's a number of stories in this Parsha. And like we always try to do on this Wednesday night class, to try to concentrate into one particular story rather than running from subject to subject and getting lost in the large picture of the Parsha. So what I want to do tonight with your help is discuss a chapter in Abraham's life, and this is what happened once he arrived in the land which now he knows as the land of Israel. So let's turn to page 56 or 57 in the English, verse 10. Avram just arrived. Says Pasuk Yud, Vayehi ra'av ba'aretz, and there was a famine in the land. Vayered Avram Mitzraymo logor sham. So Avram descended to Egypt to stay there. Ki chaved orav ba'oret, because the famine was severe in the land. Very difficult famine. It was a very troubling situation. Even though Abraham was told by God to come in and to travel where he is going to show him to stay, yet Abraham is coming into the land and he doesn't complain. He doesn't say, God, what are you doing to me? You know where I come from? I come from a place called Aram Naharaim. You know Aram Naharaim? Naharaim means Nahar, means rivers. There were two rivers. He grew up in a place where there was no issue of famine. Because when there is rivers and there is water, so you can assume that there is food. But when he arrived in Israel, there was no food. And he's really dealing with a tremendous challenge of being upset and frustrated, but yet we don't see Avram complaining at all. But you got to do what you got to do. You got to eat. If not, you're going to die. So he takes a detour and he goes down south to Egypt. In Egypt there is food. Vayehi kasher ikriv lavo Mitzrayma vayomer el Sarai ishto hinei no yadati ki isha yefat mareh at. As he was about to enter Egypt, he turns to Sarah, his wife, and he says, oops, I know now that you are a beautiful woman. He didn't know till now. He didn't know till now. Rashi brings a medrash that he knew, but he didn't know 100%. He wasn't spending extra time with his wife to evaluate her beauty. According to Torah law, you're not allowed to get married if you don't look at your wife first. You have to see how she looks like. You have to see her face. Why? Because if you're going to get married to somebody you don't know, and then you're going to come into the house and you're going to realize that this is not a woman that you can look at her face, you're going to make trouble. And that's lacking the mitzvah of a hafta le'racha kamocha. So the Talmud says, Asur lekadesh isha achi yirena. It's forbidden to marry a woman until you see her first. You got to take a glance. At least one date. One meeting. Avram obviously fulfilled the same mitzvah. But yet, he wasn't involved in other good things together with you, and it wasn't like concentrating on her beauty. And something happened at that point, which he realized that Rashi doesn't tell us what happened. Rashi says something happened. The Medrash talks about different stories. The main thing which Rashi says, it's not that he just saw that she's beautiful. He just acknowledged the beauty despite the challenges of the traveling. And usually when you travel, who has time to put up makeup, and who has time to keep your diet, and who has time to get dressed? And you can look a little schlumpy and maybe not so great. And Avram looks at his wife and he says, oh, now I see that despite all those challenges, you still look the beautiful appearance that you have. So you're a real beautiful woman. Okay, let it meaning be as is. That's not what I want to concentrate on. But now he's getting worried. What is he getting worried? It says verse 12, he tells his wife, this is all speaking to his wife. Vayomer el Sarai ishto, he's speaking to his wife. So what does verse 12 says? Now that you are so beautiful, I have a concern. V'haya, and it shall occur, ki yiru oisocha mitzrim, and the Egyptians will see you, ve'amru, and they will say, oops, ishto zot, this is his wife. Ve'argu, so then they will kill me, ve'otach yechayu, and they will let you live. I'm going to get dead. I'm going to die. And he's asking his wife a request. What is his request? Imrina achotiat. Please say that you are my sister. Leman yitav li ba'avurech, so that it might go well with me for your sake, v'choiso nafshi biglalech, and that I may live on account of you. He tells here, listen, we have a problem. What is the problem? We coming down to Egypt as a husband and wife. Even the Egyptians, for sure one thing, the Egyptians are going to want you. I have no questions. That's the type of people they are. That's the kind of country it is, as it's referred to as Ervat Haaretz, the depth of the land. They are very immoral. But they keep a certain standard of laws. What is the standard? That they don't take away a woman who has a husband. That much they don't do. But they want this woman, so what will they do instead? Let's get rid of the husband. Adultery, they are concerned about. They're very religious about it. Murder, mele. That's okay. That's not a big of a concern. And therefore, Avram tells his wife, listen, you got to help me here. And what is the help? That you're going to say you're my sister. And what's going to happen when you're going to say you're my sister? Then it might go well with me, for your sake, and that I may live on account of you. It's going to be okay. What about here? What about Sarah? Any concerns about your wife? Nothing. Doesn't mention anything about Sarah. Only talks about his issues. My protection. I have to preserve my life. You better say you're my sister, so I'm going to be okay. Hello? You're concerned that there is a problem with Sarah. Take Sarah. Run back to Israel. She's going to be violated in Egypt. No. Only these issues. I might be killed. You better say you're my sister, so I should be okay. You're lucky that you don't read Rashi sometimes. Shouldn't say those words. But if you look in Rashi, Rashi makes the question even more difficult. You know what Rashi says? On the words, Leman yitav li ba'avurech, so it should go well for me, for your sake, Rashi says, itnu li matanot, they will give me gifts. Hello, come on. Who are we talking about? You are ready to, it's like giving up your wife's dignity by first preserving your life and then even ensuring that there is going to be a bunch of gifts that you're going to get on your behalf. Rabbi Saim, you're talking about Avram. Avram, the greatest of the great. What is it doing? What happened? This is obviously one of those questions. I only took out 5 books, but if I want, I can go through more books, and you're going to see that probably each one of the commentators, of the classic commentators, is discussing this question. Everybody wants to figure out what happened to Avram. So I'm going to share with you just 1 or 2 insights, and then I want to go and see what we can really figure out about Avraham based on the teachings of the Zohar, the Rebbe, and so on. So let's start with our great Rebbe called the Ramban. Everybody knows who Ramban was. Nachmanides, lived over 900 years ago. One of the greatest classic commentators of the Torah. His commentary is also on the Talmud. His commentary is a Kabbalist, a Talmudist. The Ramban, Nachmanides, on this chapter of Avram's life says very, very clearly. You should know, he writes, and I'm going to read 2 lines only of his great insight. Veda, and you should know, Ki Avraham Avinu chata chet gadol bishgaga shehevi ishto atzadeket b'michshol avon mipnei pachado pen ya'arguhu. He says, Avram, yes, I understand, you thought you have to save your life. I wouldn't say that you're an intentional sinner, but you definitely did a great sin, maybe unintentional, by bringing his righteous wife into this type of situation just because he is afraid that he's going to be killed. You don't tell your wife, say you're my sister, and therefore they're going to take care and do what they want and they wish to do with you. You shouldn't have do it. Ramban has no problem to call Avram to refer to this story in Avram's life as a sin. He was wrong. Let's not try to explain it. Let's call it by name. It was wrong. What should have he done? Says Nachmanides. והיה לו לפתוח בשם שיציל אותו ואת אשתו ואת כל אשר לו כי יש באלוקים כוח לעזור ולהציל. If you ask me, Ramban says, what should Avram do? Yes, there is a problem. He crosses the border and he sees the way the Egyptians, the way they put their eyes over his wife Sarah, so he knew he's in trouble. So now you have 2 solutions. Either to save yourself from a situation and heavier dealing with the situation, or, as he says, what he should have done is trust God that he's going to save you and your wife. Don't make no deals with your wife like that. This is not right. God has the ability to save you. Ramban says, by the way, the very fact that he left Israel When he was told, Lech Lecha el haaretz asher areka, you should go to the land that I will show you, says the Ramban, avon asher chata. This is also a sin. And you want to know even more, he says? By Avram opening the way to escaping Israel in difficult times and going to Egypt, that carved the road, that opened the road for his descendants to later come down to Egypt and go through great suffering there. He was the man who asked you going to Egypt in times of trouble. You went. You're going to see your grandchildren are going to go. And let's see later what happens. Meaning, according to the Ramban, which makes it a very difficult Ramban to understand. According to the Ramban, Avram really did not stand by the test. We always talk about Avram going through a number of challenges by God, and the greatness of Avram was that he stood by all those challenges, right? As we say in Pirkei Avot, 10 ניסיונות נתנסה באברהם אבינו. Abraham was challenged with 10 different tests, which this is one of them. ועמד בכולן, and he stood by all those tests. And that's what many commentators ask on Ramban. Hey, how dare you? Why are you coming up with such words? Sin? Avram? What do you mean sin? Avram is a tzaddik. Avram stood by those challenges. According to you, the whole thing was wrong. And forget about that question. This is more like a question which everyone should ask. But our question is even more. What went into Avram's mind? Forget about Avram being our father. Sometimes kids are embarrassed with the way their father treated their mother. Okay? So we look at Avram and says, Avram, you sold that our mom. Forget about it. Let's not get personal with Avram. Let's talk about from a human, what do you call it? Menschlichkeit. How do you say Menschlichkeit? Enoshiyut. From a human perspective. You don't do it. And then they go into an halachic discussion. Listen to that. You want to get into a halachic discussion for a moment? They say as follows. 1 second. What is Avram gaining by the fact that he tells that he's his sister? After all, if they violate her, they violated a married woman, which even non-Jews are obligated to against adultery. So Avram is causing others to be to act in an adulterous manner with his own wife, again, for what? For saving his life. You are the cause. Because if you don't tell people you married, you are indirectly causing them to violate the prohibition of adultery, which is not only for Jews, it's from the 7 Noahide laws. Non-Jews who are married, who are in a relationship of marriage, as husband and wife, without having a chuppah, because they are not Jews, and without having a chuppah in a wedding ceremony, but they went to the judge and got married according to their legalities, are considered halachically married. And if this non-Jewish woman who is married to a non-Jewish man goes off her husband's, place and is in a relationship with another man, she violated the laws of adultery. Because marriage between a Jew and a Jew is the same with a non-Jew and a non-Jew. In that case, what does Avram gain by saying she's my sister? What is she going to gain by saying she's my sister? So here comes the halachic explanation. Maimonides says that for non-Jews, what happens if you want to get divorced? For Jews, we know when they are married, there is a set of laws called get. You have to write a special document in front of two witnesses, being signed by witnesses in a court of three sages. We deliver a special document of divorce. And then is when they become divorced. Otherwise, this woman will be considered married to you for eternity. How does it work by non-Jews? Says the Rambam, it's enough if she said, I don't want to live with you anymore. I don't want to be your wife. A declaration of divorce, of not being married to you, is sufficient to establish a state of divorce. There's no need for a special get. In that case, the moment Sarah said what? Not his wife. Insight which I saw it being said by two great rabbis. One was the famous Rabbi over 300 years ago. And this week's Parsha, Parshas Lech Lecha, he says clearly he writes this idea, Imri nach oti at. So he says, what does it mean? What are you going to gain from it? Ki ha'avot u'bneihem kodem matan Torah, before the Torah was given, especially when they weren't in Israel, they had the status of a Noachite, not as an Israelite. In Israel, they carried the status of an Israelite. Outside of Israel, they carried the status of a Noachite. Where did this story take place? In Mitzrayim. It was in Egypt. It was outside of Israel. At that point, they had the same status of Noachites. Says that Rabbi Yonatan, ובני נוח, כשנסתלקים מנשותיהם, אמר לו, אין את אשתי. He tells her, you're not my wife. היא אומרת לו, אין את בעלי. She tells him, you're not my husband. הרי יש לה דין פנויה, then she's not considered a married woman. ולקח אברהם, בלי להכשילם, אמרה, אמרינו אחותי את, ובטל האישות, ואם כן תהיי כפנויה. Avram, where's that tzaddik Avram? Avram wanted to save Egypt. Avram wanted to save this chaleres. Video is hearing it. He wanted to preserve the good life of the Egyptians. So what did he do? He tells his wife, okay, can you please say you're not my wife anymore? I would say you're not my wife anymore. What does it mean in Jewish law? Or in the law applying to non-Jews according to Jewish law? That we are what? No more husband and wife. So if we are no more husband and wife, we are divorced, then the Egyptian who is going to end up with you somewhere is not going to violate the prohibition of adultery. He says it. This is another book called Tzafnat Paneach. He already lived closer to our times. Passed away in the early 30s. He was the rabbi of Dvinsk, known as the Ragachover, Rabbi Yosef Radin, one of the greatest giants of Torah in our generation, not our generation, that generation. Our generation, not yours. Dvinsk. So he says the same thing. He says even more. He points out the idea even more interestingly. He was the biggest. He knew the entire Torah, Talmud, Zohar, Kabbalah, everything was like, he had a, what do you call this memory? Photographic memory. And his way of writing, he doesn't write any insights. He just writes footnotes. This footnote becomes a question, and that footnote, but it's being resolved by that footnote, but you can approve it by another footnote. And in the bottom there is by the what's it called, the organizers of his book are trying to figure out what he meant with all these footnotes. There is actually 4 or 5 beautiful letters that he writes. He corresponds with our Rebbe. The Rebbe was a young man when he was in Riga, and then he lived in Leningrad. Beautiful letters, and also it's all footnotes. The Rebbe writes footnotes and he responds to them by footnotes. It's not the Ragachover. He came from a city called Ragachov. but it was the rabbi of Dvinsk, and after the war, after the revolution, he moved to, he passed away, Lamaise, in Leningrad. So he says something more. He says, we have a few stories of Sarah being kidnapped. We have a story of, in this Parsha, the story what happened in Egypt. And then there's a story what happened in Israel by Avimelech, who also took her away. And he says, if you see that in the story in Egypt, here the story, in our story, it says, what is that? It says a few things, but it says, but in the story what happens in Israel, the Torah calls them Beulat Baal. In other words, Avimelech is complaining to Avram that you almost got me into trouble. I would have been in a relationship. Is blaming Avram for saying that my sister. Why didn't you tell me the truth? And when he's blaming Avram, he uses the words, but she's a woman of a husband. Paroi doesn't say to Avram, why did you do it to me if she has a husband? Because when Paroi was dealing with Sarah, Shitake didn't have a husband. He divorced her. When he was dealing with Sarah in Israel, the status of Abraham and Sarah was more as an Israelite status. So then just saying my sister is not working. You got to have a real get, which he never did. And he brings other interesting things. It says by Paro, it's actually very beautiful. He was a Kabbalist also, so he's using when interesting words. He says that when Paro gets inflicted, later Paro gets punished by God for taking Sarah. Both get inflicted. Paro gets inflicted, and Avimelech gets inflicted. By Paro, the verse says, "Vayenaga Hashem et bet Paro." Verse 17. Next page it says, and Hashem afflicted Paroi along with his household. The name for God being used for the infliction for Paroi is which name? Hashem. Hashem, which is the name called Yud and K and Vav and K. When you go a little bit later to the story of Avimelech on page 92, so there too Avimelech gets inflicted, and what happens? On page 90, verse 3 of page 91, it says, Vayovoi Elokim el Avimelech. Vayom Elo. Who said? Elokim said to Avimelech, you're going to die for what you did. Incha meta leisha shalakachta. You're going to die because of the woman you have taken. Ve'i beulad baal. She's married woman. So the Ragachover says, you see, by us, it's the name Hashem. Vir, it's the name Elokim. Elokim is the name of judgment. Meaning, Vir, God comes from a legal point of view. Hello, they're in Israel. He never divorced her. According to Jewish law, she is his wife. How dare you trying to come in contact with a woman who is married? While here they were outside of Israel, which they carried the status of Noachites, therefore, divorce was enough by saying, I'm not your wife anymore. Nevertheless, Hashem, which is not the God of judgment, but the regular so-called, the regular system, demanded Paroi to be punished for this behavior. Anyway, this is an insight for the sake of insight. It doesn't answer our question. It doesn't even deal with our question. What happened to Avram? Why would you say she's my sister? Where is the menschlichkeit? Where is the enoshiyut? When your wife is here in such a situation to try to give her out because you want to save your life. There's a famous Italian commentator, which his commentary is printed in the classic Chumashim, Mikraot Gdolot, called the Sforno. Reb Ovadia of the city of Sforno. Sforno is a place in Italy. He has very short insights. Also, from the early commentators, talking about more than 500 years ago. And he has a very simple take on this whole story with Avraham. In Hebrew, those who understand Hebrew, there is an expression, and maybe it's in English too, limshoch zman. How do you say limshoch zman?
Gain time.
It's more than gain time. Sometimes you're being offered a deal and you're not ready to commit, and you're schlepping your time. You're gaining time. Give me this document, get me that document. Not because you need all those documents, you couldn't have asked to get all this packet, the whole file together. You're doing it because you're really trying to gain time.
You're stalling.
What?
You're stalling.
Stalling the process. You're just trying to push it and postpone that in your hope that, as long that the things did not come to closure, hopefully something will happen and things will change. Says the Sforno, the same thing happened with Avraham. Avraham, he says, in those days especially, as we see later in the Torah, sometimes the older brother, was the one kind of in charge of the sisters, marrying them, like Lavan was a brother to Rivka. She had parents, Besuel, and Besuel had a wife. When they came to the Shidduch, right, Eliezer had to bring Rivka for Isaac. So who was he dealing with? Lavan. Lavan was the brother. The brother was kind of an apotropos. He was kind of a person taking charge and caring for the sisters and helping the family. He was like a representative. No. Avram is coming down to Egypt, and he sees these Egyptians, the way they are putting their eyes on Sarah. Says, okay, we got to figure out a strategy here. How to gain some time so we can maybe even go back to Israel or figure out how we're getting out of it. So the first thing it says, Chevra, my sister. She says, my brother, sister, brother, okay, let's negotiate. You want it, I understand. Let's talk. Dowry, support, family, shvoya, as they say in Arabic. Slowly, let's go, discuss. Not that he's trying to give it away as a sister, and by that, saving and protecting himself. Protecting himself by telling him, my sister, says the Sforno, it meant for Avram, we are going to get some time. We are going to work it out. We are going to figure out slowly an exit from our situation, not getting stuck in the situation. Okay? Okay. Pshat. Avort. The truth is, it so doesn't make any sense to think that Avram would be interested for his benefit in any way. Because if you read these stories in the Torah, which starts now to evolve, to reveal us who Avram was. First of all, he was the most sensitive person. Even in this week's Parsha. What he does to rescue his one nephew from captivity. He goes in and he fights a war against 4 kings, fighting them, mighty kings who were involved with a war with others. This is a story in this week's Parsha of the king's wars in Yam HaMelech. And Avram goes by himself, waging war. Why? Saving a life. Shpucha. Would he be ready to give up Sarah? He put in life in the greatest danger. in the stories that we are studying and reading, how would one think that is insensitive to sorrow? Getting money because of Sarah's situation. This is the last person whom we can see in our Torah has any interest in money. First of all, again, a story in this Parsha. There is war. And there is a principle in war that if you get booty, soil, it becomes yours. No one is asking you to get it back. It's lost. It's considered legally lost and you can get a hold of it. And what happens to Avram? The king of Sodom comes to him and Avram says, I'm giving you back every single penny I took from you. Even shoelaces. Even the shoelaces. Look at the verse. Imechut v'atzroch nal. Threads. Shoelaces. Everything to the last bit I am giving you back. I would not take a penny from you. This is Avram. Avram cared for money. He gave everything away. Later, also in the Parsha, when he separates from Avimelech, you see how generous Avram is. Let's split. Take what you want. I will go here. You go there. Not trying to make any calculations. Allo, wait, Avimelech, you're taking a house in Medina, then maybe I'm going to keep 3 houses and rent it. Garnish. Whatever you want, just let's split like brothers. Avram was the most generous person. Money meant nothing for him. Saving lives was the first thing of his identity. We have to really get into Avram, into his lifestyle by the stories of the Torah portion, opening a tent, treating guests in the greatest welcoming manner. Guests which look like bad people, as we're going to see in next week's Parsha, are being welcomed by Avram on the 3rd day of a major surgery called circumcision in the age of 99. 90. So when you read all the stories of Avram, you got to put it in perspective, my friends. You can't just talk about Avram just by one story you see and then make assumptions. We have to first analyze who Avram was, get into the context of who Avram was. And when you look who Avram was, you see that it doesn't fit. It doesn't make any sense. What happened? This insight, that insight, this is all beautiful insight, which is always nice to share in our Torah Parsha, a Ramban, a Sforno, a Ragachover, Rabbi Yonos Neibshitz. You know, we can sit there hours and share beautiful insight, which is all great. You want to come to some epis, you know, something deeper, something which can make more sense. So this is what we're going to share tonight, starting with what the Zohar HaKadosh says, brought down in the Rebbe Sicha. An unbelievable Zohar. Gewaldig, as they say.
But Rabbi, he had a mission. God told him.
To do what?
Well, you're someone special. He didn't tell him exactly what, but he told him something.
No.
So he can't afford to die.
Oh, good reason.
But you have a wife?
That's
You don't
true.
do it regardless of any mission. Okay, so I will use the word you just said, but let me come first, see what was his interest, and then I'm going to come back to the punchline you just told us. So let me tell you a Zohar. You want to hear a piece of Zohar HaKadosh? Says the Zohar as follows in our Parsha. Abraham, he looked at his wife, he saw she's okay. She is an angel, a malach, who goes with her. She's protected. She is so holy and pure and connected. Nothing is going to happen to Sarah. She is going to be 100% okay. He wasn't worried about Sarah at all. He's coming down to Egypt and he says, what's going to be with me? How am I going to survive Egypt? You're going to be alive. You're going to be okay. He's turning to Sarah, says the Zohar, and he's asking Sarah, please, help me to share your angel. I want to have the protection of your angel, the one who protects you, the one who follows you and who walks with you, to also be with me. Because I know, says the Zohar, that there is nothing which a husband can achieve without the merit of his wife. How do you like that as a feminist statement? There is no parnasa, there is no sustenance in the house, there is no life, there is no energy. It's only because of fear. I'm going to read you the words of the Zohar, so you shouldn't think that I'm making it up. Okay? Avram lo yisomich al schusei, delay. Avram knew that he's not relying on his own merit. He says, God, I'm not going to ask you to exercise my merit, because my merit is not going to make it happen. Ela al schusei deitesei. He relied completely on his wife's merit. The irvach begino momoine de sharamin, the momoine beitesei zochile barnash. He says, I'm not going to do anything. If you're gone, then I have nothing. If you're gone, we are nothing. But you're not going to be gone. I know that you're going to be okay. I see that Malach watching you. But we have a mission. And if I am gone, then the mission is over. But my mission to succeed, I can only do it with you. So I need you to say, Achoy Siyat. So then I should be alive, able to carry out my mission. But carrying out my mission is going to be in your schus, in your merit. What is the Zohar telling us here? You tell him something so, sometimes the Talmud speaks about this kind of things, by the way, but sometimes it's not as clear and like when the Zohar comes and puts it in the context of a story. Everybody knows and is familiar that the Talmud says that a person's wealth depends on his wife. Okay, that's what it says. It's called even down in Shulchan Aruch, that if you want to make sure that you have enough money in the bank, be respectful to your wife. In your merit, you're going to get your money. Yeah, tell it to your husbands. Let's not turn it into a AA meeting. Okay? You know the famous song that we say, some say it every Friday night, Eshet Chayil mi Yimtza, a woman of valor who can find. King Solomon sings it. The Medrash says that this song was not even composed by King Solomon. It was composed by Avraham Avinu. That was the eulogy that Abraham carried off for his wife. When she died, that's what he was saying. Those verses, that's why it says mi imtza, meaning not mi motze. Imtza means in the past. But Yitzchak liyom acharon, she laughed, her smile was on her face till the last day of her life. This kind of word, which is mentioned in that praise, clearly indicates that somebody is talking about a woman who's already finished the life. And we are trying to relay the same messages to the wives of our life, to our mothers and our wives of our life. Avram Avinu, later in this Parsha, he has a big issue there. And God tells Avram, you better listen to your wife. Whatever she tells you, you should listen to your voice. It's all centering about Sarah. It's all centering about Sarah. Avram truly knew, that's what the Zohar Kodesh says, that Avram clearly knew, I am not, you don't need protection, Sarah. You're going to be okay. I need your protection. And therefore, I'm asking you, watch me, and therefore said, say you are my sister, so I'm going to be watched. It doesn't stop here. This really goes further with the story of what happens with the Jews coming down to Egypt. There's a whole process here. Abram starts, lives to Egypt. Years later, the Jews come down to Egypt. Famine. They are going through all kinds of trouble. You know what the Zohar says? Listen to that. In the wealth of Egypt, there is a lot of godly energy which supports that wealth. And that gave Egypt the strength. Avram, who is already concerned about the future generation of kids who are going to come down to Egypt, wants to weaken them, wants to make them less strong. So therefore he says, Sarah, because of you, I'm going to be able to get some gift out of them. I'm going to take some of their money, some of their belongings. They're going to become shvach, they're going to become weaker. So then when our grandchildren coming down there, the decree is not going to be so severe, because it's not going to be as strong as they would have been without us taking away their money. You see, you read a story like this, and you gets a whole discussion of what's going on. Avram, what's going on with Sarah? How's he saying it? They're going to do good to me. The Zohar says, not they going to do good to me. The good is not going to come from Egypt. The good is going to come from your angel. The guy who takes care of you, he's going to do good to me too. I'm going to be able to become a part of your life, of your holy life, of your sacred life. The matriarchs were women who brought miracles into the personal lives of Avram. We all know the story that when Sarah died, when Sarah was alive, she used to light a candle every Friday for Shabbos, and the candle kept on shining till the next Shabbos, right? You know this story. And then she died. What happened to the candle? It stopped. Avram is still alive. Sorry, you're not going to make the candle burn. According to Jewish law, if your wife dies, then you have to light a candle. You can't go around without lighting a candle. Every Shabbos, a Jewish home needs to have a candle. So when your wife is at home, the woman lights the candle. If the woman is not home, let's say you're single, you light a candle. Your wife died, the widow or the husband takes over this job, and he lights the candle in honor of Shabbos. So Avram is lighting a candle, and he's waiting till the same miracle what happened to Sarah to happen to him, garnished. Goes by 2, 3, 4 hours, and the candle puts off. What happens a few years later? Rivka gets married, a young little girl coming from Haran, marries his son, comes into the tent, lights the candles, and what happens? The same miracle repeats itself. Why? Because she's a woman. Because she's a woman. And they are connected. When they light a candle, they channel the miracle. You're a big tzaddik, but you're not Sarah, and you're not Rivka. And that's why it says that what happened to Yitzchak? Avram find comfort in his life once he saw that what happened, that after Yitzchak married Rivka, that only that is when Yitzchak finally found comfort in his life. He loved Rivka. What do you mean he loved Rivka? He gave Rivka whatever she needed to continue the legacy of his mother. That's what the Torah says. He loved it. That's what love means. Lehav, to give. To give. Or we say the parable, the guy who said he loved fish. He loved fish? He doesn't love fish. He loves to eat fish. People say, I love fish. You don't love fish. If you love fish, you go to the market and you buy 10 live fish and you go down to Lake Washington and you take out one by one, I love you, into the water. A second one, I love you, into the water. That means that you love fish. As long as you take the fish and you put them into the grinder, into the frying pan, you love to see fish being grinded and fish being cooked and fish being boiled and fish being eaten. You love yourself. Avram loved Sarah and Yitzchak loved Rivka, so they gave them. They kept on giving. And that's what Avram is doing to Sarah. He says, Sarah, it's you. You are the one. I need your help. Not I need you to help me that they're going to do good to me. I want you to share with me what you have. Because you have a great energy around you and I need to be protected by your energy. And this is the gifts. Like I said before, the gift was simply to help the future generation. I saw this actually in the Shem Shmuel. The Shem Shmuel was a rabbi in Poland called the Sochachover. This is an insight he shared in 1930. He actually passed away just a couple years later. He said, what happened to the gift? How comes he wants gift? So that's what he says. That there were all these sparks into the gifts. And he says, ידוע שהסטרה אחרא, כלומר, סטרה אחרא, כל מה שיש בקרביה בשביה מחלקי הקדושה, כן הוא גודל תוקפה. The סטרה אחרא, as more that they have from the holiness, that's how stronger they are. On their own, they are garnished. The power of Sitra Acher, of Klippa, is what they take from the side of holiness. As more holiness there is, that's how stronger they are. ועל כן, במה שנתנו לאברהם מתנות, שהיו מלובשים מהם חלקי הקדושה, נתמתעו חלקי הקדושה ממצרים, ובזה עצמו נחלש תוקפה. Once they gave away their wealth, they lost some sparks. So they became weaker. וזה היה לתועלת עצומה לישראל, שיהיה אפשר להם להחזיק מעמד שלא יתרבה. The fact that Avram took gifts from Paroi, that gave the Jews later, when they went on to Egypt, the ability to not to assimilate completely and to stand strong, because Paroi was already weak. Who was he weakened by? Their Zayda, Avram, and it took away those gifts from them.
I have a question.
Okay?
The size of this gift, what kind of size it should be to make the Egyptian weaker?
Besides what?
What the size of the gift it's supposed to be?
We don't know. It says that he gave them a lot of stuff. If you look in the verse, which it says on verse 16, it says, and he gave them tzon, bakar, chamorim, havadim, shfachot, atonot, ugmalim. See what he gave them? Cattle, donkeys, slaves, maidservants, female donkeys, camels. Huh?
Because of Sarah.
That's because of Sarah. So meaning that not only did Sarah protect them, but Sarah helped them to release some of the energy from Egypt So they should become weaker in order to protect our future there in Egypt when the kids going to come back. Verstehst? That's how we're learning a pasuk. Laila Tov, everybody.